Welcome to our channel, your trusted news aggregator. We gather the most important stories from around the world and bring them to you in one place, saving you time and keeping you informed. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button to stay updated. The world order established after World War II is facing its greatest threat in over 70 years. The former leader of NATO just declared that the era of diplomatic flattery has ended. This morning in Davos, Fogh Rasmussen delivered a message that sent shockwaves through the international community. His words were not a suggestion, they were a warning. If you're just joining us, please subscribe now and like this video. The story unfolding could reshape global security as we know it. Rasmussen served Denmark as Prime Minister from 2001 to 2009, then led NATO from 2009 to 2014. His perspective carries unique weight. And today, speaking to Reuters from the World Economic Forum, he said something no former NATO chief has dared to say publicly before. The time for flattering Donald Trump is over. Those 7 words represent a fundamental shift in how Europe views its relationship with the United States. For months, current NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has pursued what critics call flattery diplomacy. He called Trump "daddy" during a summit. He sent gushing text messages using Trump's own linguistic style, complete with capital letters and exclamation marks. And now, according to Rasmussen, that strategy has failed. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe. What happens next will determine the future of the Western alliance. The crisis centers on Greenland, a semi-autonomous Danish territory. Trump insists the United States must acquire it for national security. He threatened tariffs on 8 European nations. 10% starting February 1st, 25% by June 1st, unless they agree to sell Greenland. Rasmussen's response was clear and uncompromising. Trump only respects force and strength and unity. That's exactly what Europe should demonstrate right now. He told Reuters that Europe should deploy its anti-coercion instrument, the so-called bazooka, broad economic retaliation powers designed to counter precisely this kind of pressure. This represents the biggest challenge to NATO since its establishment in 1949. Rasmussen proposed a concrete 3-point plan to defuse the crisis. First, update the 1951 agreement between the United States and Denmark that allows U.S. forces and military bases on Greenland. Strengthen NATO's presence there. Second, create an investment pact. Allow both American and European firms to extract minerals from Greenland's territory. Third, establish a stabilization and resilience compact. Prevent Chinese and Russian investments in critical sectors. Address legitimate security concerns that Trump claims motivate his demands. Subscribe and like this video. We're your one-stop source for aggregated news that matters. The current NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, faces an impossible position. French member of European Parliament Nathalie Loiseau compared him to a McDonald's employee of the month. Spanish newspaper El País called his performance flattery diplomacy, bordering on outright vassalage. Yet Rutte defended his tactics. He told the New York Times that when somebody deserves praise, that praise should be given. His job is to keep NATO together. And the biggest ally is the United States. The strategy appeared to work for months. At the June 2025 summit, Rutte secured pledges from NATO members to spend 5% of GDP on defense. He won Trump's public endorsement. But now Trump is threatening to impose tariffs on NATO allies. He leaked private text messages from Rutte, praising Trump's incredible accomplishments and pledging to find a way forward on Greenland. Trump sent a message on Truth Social claiming he's done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. He told Norway's Prime Minister that NATO should now do something for the United States. His implication was clear. Greenland is the price. European leaders sent troops to Greenland for a military exercise called Arctic Endurance. 8 nations issued a joint statement: Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. They declared the exercise poses no threat to anyone. They stand in full solidarity with Denmark and the people of Greenland. They warned that tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. Make sure you're subscribed and you've liked this video. We aggregate the news so you don't have to search for it. Rasmussen went further. He called the Greenland issue a weapon of mass distraction. Everybody's now speaking about Greenland, which is not a real threat to North Atlantic security. Russia's attack against Ukraine is the real threat, and attention should not be distracted from this real threat. This framing recontextualizes the entire crisis. Trump's Greenland demands aren't just about Arctic security. They're drawing focus away from the ongoing war in Ukraine, where NATO unity has been essential. The strategic implications are staggering. Rasmussen emphasized one non-negotiable principle: Greenland is not for sale. And as a real estate expert, Trump should know if an estate is not for sale, you can't purchase it. Yet Trump has repeatedly refused to rule out military action. If Trump were to use military force against Greenland, Rasmussen stated, that would de facto mean the end of NATO. Subscribe now if you haven't already, and hit that like button. This is history unfolding in real time. Article 5 of the NATO Treaty commits all members to collective defense. An attack on one is an attack on all. If the United States attacked Greenland, a territory of NATO member Denmark, the entire foundation of the alliance would collapse. The mutual defense guarantee that has prevented major war in Europe for over 70 years would become meaningless. China and Russia would benefit most from NATO's dissolution. Rasmussen explicitly warned that Trump's actions had already created what he called a mental break between Washington and its longtime European allies. The World Economic Forum in Davos has become ground zero for this diplomatic showdown. Trump confirmed he spoke with Rutte by phone. They agreed to a meeting of the various parties in Davos. Trump said of Denmark, "I don't think they're going to push back too much. We have to have it." Please subscribe and like this video. We're bringing you aggregated news from trusted sources worldwide. The flattery strategy isn't just ineffective, according to Rasmussen. It's counterproductive. It encourages Trump to believe he can extract concessions through threats and pressure. It sends a signal that European unity can be fractured. Rasmussen isn't criticizing Rutte personally, but he's calling for a fundamental change in European strategy. Force, strength, unity. Those are the qualities Trump respects, according to the former NATO chief. The anti-coercion instrument that Rasmussen referenced gives the European Union powerful retaliatory tools: trade restrictions, investment limitations, tariffs of their own. The so-called bazooka has never been deployed at full strength. But if Trump follows through on his threats, Rasmussen argues it should be. This would represent economic warfare between the United States and Europe, between NATO allies, an unprecedented rupture in transatlantic relations. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We aggregate the most important news so you can stay informed efficiently. The timing of this crisis is particularly dangerous. Ukraine continues fighting for its survival against Russian invasion. China watches Taiwan with increasing aggression. Global security depends on Western unity, and that unity is fracturing over an Arctic island. Rasmussen's three-point plan offers a potential diplomatic solution: address legitimate security concerns while maintaining Denmark's sovereignty over Greenland. But the plan hasn't been presented to governments yet. It's a proposal for discussion in Davos. Subscribe now and like this video. This channel aggregates breaking news from around the world for you. Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence expressed concerns about whether Trump has constitutional authority to impose unilateral tariffs on NATO allies. Trump's current position threatens to fracture that strong relationship, Pence said, not just with Denmark, but with all of our NATO allies. Even Trump's populist allies in Europe pushed back. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, considered one of his closest European allies, called the tariffs a mistake. This is the moment. Subscribe and like. We're your trusted news aggregator, bringing clarity to complex global events. Rasmussen's intervention changes the calculation. A former NATO Secretary General publicly declaring that flattery has failed gives political cover to European leaders who want to take a harder line. It validates a tougher response. The mental break Rasmussen described has profound implications. NATO has survived disagreements before, but those crises never involved the United States threatening a NATO ally with economic punishment for refusing to cede territory. This is different in kind, not just degree. If you value this aggregated news coverage, please subscribe and like this video. We save you time by bringing stories together from multiple trusted sources. The question facing European leaders in Davos is existential. Do they accommodate Trump's demands and hope to preserve the alliance? Or do they stand firm on principle and risk NATO's dissolution? Rasmussen has made his position unequivocal. Accommodation hasn't worked. Flattery hasn't worked. Only strength and unity can work now. Subscribe now and like this video. We're your one-stop news aggregation channel. Trump's view of NATO has been consistent. He believes European allies have taken advantage of American military protection while underspending on their own defense. But the Greenland crisis takes this transactional view to an extreme. He's not just demanding higher defense spending. He's demanding territory. The logical contradiction is stark. How can seizing an ally's territory strengthen an alliance based on mutual defense? Make sure you're subscribed and you've liked this video. We aggregate news to keep you informed and save your time. Rasmussen led NATO during Russian aggression in Georgia and the early stages of the Ukraine conflict. He knows what holds the alliance together and what could tear it apart. And now he's saying publicly that the current approach isn't working. The meeting in Davos this week could define the future of Western security architecture. If Trump and European leaders find compromise, the alliance might emerge stronger. But if talks fail, if Trump imposes tariffs, if Europe retaliates economically, the transatlantic relationship could enter uncharted territory. Subscribe and like this video right now. We aggregate the most important news stories for you daily. Rasmussen's final point bears repeating. This is a new situation that differs from all other disputes we have seen in the history of NATO. Previous disagreements were about policy, strategy, burden sharing. This is about territorial sovereignty, about whether threats and coercion can force an ally to surrender land. The stakes, as Rasmussen said, are the future of NATO and the future of the world order. What happens in Davos this week will echo for decades. Subscribe now. Like this video. Comment below with your thoughts on this crisis. And stay tuned to our channel, where we aggregate the world's most important news stories so you don't have to search across multiple sources. We save you time. We keep you informed. We bring clarity to complexity. The era of flattering Trump is over, according to the man who once led NATO. Now we'll see if Europe has the force, strength, and unity he says are necessary to navigate this unprecedented crisis. Subscribe, like, and comment. This is history happening now.